So we are recording. I'll let people in as they kind of hop in. But fun story. I was in my office this evening in town, and I left to go grab a coffee before the call. Locked my keys inside and can't get in the main door. So I'm sitting in my car for the call instead. That's okay. It'll all work out the same. I just look a little bit sketchy here, half in the shadows. If you guys, we got the chat going on. Oh, someone got some cleanse shots only in 2020. I'll let anyone else on as they come in, but we'll jump right in. So, hello, everybody. I see a couple familiar names here, so I think there may be some people that were on calls through a different challenge. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is JC. I do health and wellness mindset coaching as well as energy work. So I am a reflexologist and Reiki teacher. I also am just at the tail end of doing my master's degree in counseling. So that's kind of a little bit of my background. I also work as a neurofeedback specialist with military veterans who have PTSD. So we do some really cool work with that stuff. I like to keep busy, obviously. I've got all the different things on the go. But I like to run these sessions pretty informally. I have to leave everybody on mute for the most part, just because otherwise there's way too much background noise. But if you have any questions at any point throughout the call, throw it in the chat box. I will leave it up, so I'll see messages and questions as they come in. And the only thing I don't love about the online stuff is that it's a little bit less interactive. So the more interactive we make it, in my opinion, the better it is. If you have a question, there's probably lots of other people who have a similar question or concern. So yeah, we'll just kind of jump right in. For those of you who have done calls with me before, I'm never scripted, so you won't get the exact same stuff, but we're going to be covering very similar topics. So I apologize if any of it is repetitive, but usually we can stand to hear these types of things more than once. So if you guys want, I'm just going to give you a second. Could everyone type in the comment box what you're hoping to get out of, whether it's the Isagenix challenge itself or out of these calls that we're doing? Thanks, Joanne. So go ahead and just type. I'm just curious to see what everyone is kind of looking for, hoping to get. And I have a vague outline of what we're going to go over, but I'm happy to adjust that if people are looking for more specific things that I haven't included in the outline so far. Emotional eating, that's such a big one. That's definitely on the list. Control anxiety and emotional eating. Okay, staying positive, even in hard and challenging times. Awesome. Positive mindset. How to switch to that mindset. Surviving when willpower isn't enough. That's a really good one. We're going to definitely touch on that kind of stuff. I am going to go over some really helpful kind of cognitive information that might help you guys be a little bit more compassionate with yourselves when willpower isn't enough, and we'll dive into some of that as well. Motivation to get up in the morning and work out. Believe that you can succeed. Yes, we're definitely going to jump into that. I have call 3 specifically set up for limiting beliefs. So these ideas, these really unconscious and ingrained ideas that we have about what we can and can't achieve. Emotional eating, doubt, willpower. Yep. Ditch the diet mindset. Yes. I think that's like the first thing on my list here, mindful eating. I do have a specific worksheet that I'll send out with mindful eating in it. I think that's for next week, but I can send it out early, of course. Awesome. These are great. Okay. Let me turning up the heat in my car here since I got locked out of my office. Okay, so that's awesome. I will do my best to monitor the chat box. If you guys send a question and I'm in my zone and I don't see it in the chat box, there's a little icon where you can like raise your hand and I can unmute you and let you speak. Or if you just want to speak anyways, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to touch on today is the idea of it leans into emotional eating, but this is something that affects all of us in very different areas of our lives. So when I do coaching, although we're doing kind of mindset in regards to health and fitness, it can be applied across the board. So all of the techniques are very broadly applicable to your life, which is why I like it. We can focus on a certain topic, but then you guys can take it and run with it, and you can use it in your relationships, you can use it in your career, you can use it in your family dynamics. There's loads of different places. So a lot of this stuff can be really helpful for working through anxieties, and any area in our life where we repetitively make choices that we aren't super proud of or happy with. This can be applied to all of it. So with that, going to refer to the term addiction a little bit here. And I just want to be really clear about what I mean by that. And what I mean by addiction is anything we reach for to fill ourselves up when we're feeling empty, that's not healthy for us. Or anything we reach to so much that it becomes unhealthy. That can be anything from food. So the emotional eating, it triggers in our brain. Our brain is responding to emotional eating the same way that an alcoholic is responding to needing a drink after a stressful day. Or oftentimes it's social media, right? A lot of us have that social media addiction. And when we start feeling stressed or lost, we just start kind of mindlessly scrolling as a way to distract ourselves. Relationships are actually another one. So it's very common that when we start feeling recovering addict. Yes, me too. I don't come by this stuff by mistake. Yeah, sorry. I also will go off on tangents and get distracted. So apologies in advance if that is annoying to anybody. Relationships is another thing that we can use almost as an addiction. So as soon as we're feeling lonely, we're reaching out and texting, multiple people, even if they're not necessarily people that we would normally reach out to or want to be in a lot of communication with. So any of those areas, if you guys are comfortable with it, and don't share anything that, you're not comfortable with, but I think we're, in a pretty safe space here. Feel free to just type in like, what's your go-to? If you're stressed, if you're lonely, if you're sad, what is one of the first things that you reach for to make yourself feel better that you would consider an unhealthy habit? Because lots of us have healthy coping mechanisms too, which is great. Chocolate, cell phone, wine, workaholic. Yeah, work is another really big one. We bury ourselves in productivity so that we kind of feel like we're valued. Scrolling aimlessly, junk food, work, cell phone, work, eating everything, food and phone. Okay. So food, phone, work seem to be pretty standard responses here. So that's helpful. We can work with that for sure. Now, one concept that I find is really helpful for us to understand about ourselves and about any sort of addiction in general, those things that we do reach for when our emotions are feeling a little bit out of hand. The end goal and what our brain is working towards and kind of what our subconscious is reaching for when we do give into these impulses is connection. That's really what we're missing. We aren't feeling fulfilled. We're not feeling filled up. We're not feeling connected to ourselves. Maybe we're not feeling connected to our job. We're not feeling connected to our family, our loved ones. There's loads of different things that can make us feel disconnected. I have a very strong spiritual practice, which kind of has stemmed from working with energy work for so many years. I've been doing Reiki for 15 years now, reflexology for 4, and I've been doing a lot of that different type of spiritual work. So when I start feeling spiritually disconnected, that's when I start reaching for these other more unhealthy patterns. disconnection in relationships is a really big one. So if we've had a fight with our partner, we've had a fight with a good friend, or we've had a fight with our mother, that can really trigger the reaction and the impulse to reach for food or our phone or whatever, because relationships are often where we get so much of our connection. And when that gets pulled away from us, we really start striving and grasping to start to feel those types of things again. The reason that I think it's important for us to understand the connection between feeling connected and reaching for our addiction is because it gives us a totally different framework to work within. So whereas before you may have said, oh, I feel really stressed and now I want chocolate, I have to use my willpower not to eat it. You can look at it from a completely different angle. You can have a new framework and you say, I feel stressed and I'm reaching for chocolate. I know that I reach for chocolate when I'm not feeling connected somewhere else. Where's the connection missing? And when you start to ask yourself that question, you start to get yourself better answers. So rather than reaching for the chocolate as your distraction, you're actually able to, over time, find the answer and deal with the cause of the reaching rather than trying to deal with, or just trying to cover it up with your distraction. Megan says, I feel that so much. I have a lot of issues with my parents, so I resort to snacking and pizza. Yes. Yeah, it's really difficult to kind of figure out what those root causes are. And if we're relying on nothing but willpower, there's a good chance we're not going to succeed, because willpower isn't that powerful. I think we've all experienced that in one form or another. So another thing that I really like to point out with that is once we know better, we do better. I speak in self-help quotes, but it's the truth. And as cliche as some of the things sound, they're cliches for a reason. So if we don't know a better way, we can't act in a better way for ourselves. If we don't know a better answer, or if we don't know a better question, we can't find a better answer. So these types of calls are all about discovering new parts of ourselves, meeting new parts of ourselves, and learning how to integrate those new parts that we hadn't seen before into our everyday life. All of this making sense so far? Yes, knowledge is power. Josette, what was the what part about? I didn't see it come through.
When you said that motivation is not really motivating.
No, it's really not. It goes away super fast. We're all great at it for, I think, like 3 days, and then it just disappears.
I was like, I know, I just had to throw it in there.
Yeah, I could tell there was a joke in there, and I was like, I can't miss a joke. I like them.
Thanks.
So, okay, so yeah, that's making sense for everybody. That's good. So now that we kind of have that baseline of understanding a little bit, that's just one piece. There's obviously lots of different pieces, and we're going to kind of dive into different ones each week. But there's a line of questioning that we can ask ourselves to start recreating these connections that we're losing and filling the space that we're trying to fill with other things, in this case, food or sleep or our phone. One of the first things, and if you guys have a pen and paper, that'd be great. If not, I will send this out via email afterwards, or you can type it into the comment box. It's really helpful for people to see the pattern so that they don't feel isolated, because a lot of us have very similar experiences. And oftentimes when I share, I'm sharing from either personal experience or experiences I've worked through with a number of clients. So it's quite common stuff. But if you can identify, if I were to ask each of you, what point in your life do you feel the best? What are you doing? Who are you with? Where are you? What is your mindset? Like, if you could name maybe 3 words or settings where you feel the calmest, the most content, the most at peace, the most fulfilled, what would those be? Drinking a mimosa on the beach. I love it. My girlfriends and I went for bottomless mimosas at the Hilton last weekend. It was lovely. I was driving, so I did not have bottomless mimosas, but the rest of them enjoyed it. Sleepovers with my best friends, and yes, even in my 30s, we never outgrow that. Kind, non-judgmental, honest, supportive people. Give it a couple minutes for some more answers. Sometimes this is one you have to think on, and it's definitely worth. Oh, no problem, Keisha. It's worth taking long drives, ripping trails on the snowmobile. Yeah, I'm hoping to get a sled this winter. At the gym, around water, one-on-one concert in my car. Oh, and the question for Anna was, at what point in your life do you feel the happiest, the most fulfilled, the most connected, the most at peace? Feel my best when we go for long drives. Awesome. Okay, when you're eating right. Nice. So there's all of these different things that make us feel good. And what we can do is identify, when I'm doing these things, what am I actually feeling? What is it giving me? What am I gaining out of this? Because we all have different needs. That's one thing about any of this mindset coaching. It's not prescriptive. I can't tell you what you need to feel, because you're the one that's connected to yourself, and you're the one that's going to understand and know what brings you specifically the most fulfillment and joy and happiness in your life. Some of us it's freedom. Some of us it's friendship. For some of us it is helping others in a fulfilling and non-pressury kind of way, which is a whole other topic in and of itself. But understand, like, look at those moments where you do feel the best and identify what's being met. Do you feel free? Do you feel that the expectations of society have been lifted off of you? Do you feel connected to your partner, to your friends, to your family? What's actually coming out? What's happening? And why does it make you feel good? The reason that we want to ask these questions is because if we understand, most of us just kind of skim over that. We'll know, oh, well, I feel better when I'm at the beach, but we never really understand why we feel better at the beach. So every time we get stressed out, our immediate reaction is, oh, I need to get to the beach. I'll feel so much better when I'm there. But if we can look at the emotion, the experience that gets brought out by the beach, we can start learning how to integrate that into our life all of the time, or at least small pieces of it every day, so that we don't need to escape in order to find that feeling. Is that making sense? I'll go into more depth, but I just want to make sure that is ringing some bells for people. You can just send a yes, or just put a no if it doesn't make sense. Okay. If I don't see a no, I'll assume it makes sense. We can go with that. So with going on that beach analogy, if you're really stressed out and you feel like you need to get to the beach in order to calm down, when you're sitting at the beach, you can ask what you're feeling. So also kind of imagine who you're there with. Are you there by yourself? Are you there with family? So I'll run through it as if it was me. If I were to go to the beach in order to decompress, it would be probably me by myself, or me with a dog. And I would have my journal and a hot cup of tea or coffee. And the feeling that I will get from that is solitude, independence, autonomy, freedom. And that would probably be the biggest ones. Autonomy and freedom are really important for me personally. I know that. And it also helps me feel really connected spiritually. And that's a really big part of my life. So if that's missing, I'm not going to feel my best. So I know these things about myself. And if I understand that autonomy, freedom, and spiritual connection are what make me feel my best, yes, I know I get them at the beach, and that's awesome. I can totally leave that in my repertoire of places to get it from. But where else in my life can I micro implement freedom, autonomy, and spiritual connection in order to begin increasing my daily experience of it? And the more that we do that, the more that we connect, the less we are going to reach for our distractions and our unhelpful or unhealthy coping mechanisms. Yeah, the water in and of itself is pretty magical. So that definitely has its own thing, Bonnie. but that's kind of the idea behind it. So when we look at what we're gaining, what we're experiencing in those moments that we feel our best, where can we bring those in? Got my notes here so I remember coming forward. So I'm gonna get, if anybody can just pop in what it is that you get out of those things that make you feel good. What is it? And I can throw out, obviously I've said mine are autonomy and freedom. Some people feel really safe and secure and connected when they're in a really certain environment. They know what to expect. They know where they are and who they're with. Anxiety free. Okay, so freedom, Josette, would probably be that peace. Yeah. Mental peace, freedom, anxiety free. Yeah. Some other, there's a list of kind of basic human needs, and each of us lands differently on what we need. Accomplishment, safety and security. And those basic needs are freedom, autonomy, certainty, and uncertainty, even though that sounds a little contradictory. No, grounded is not a weird one at all, Megan. That makes a lot of sense. When we're grounded, part of this is my energy worker coming out, and part of this is my sciencey part coming out. But when we're not grounded, when we feel chaotic, the ions in our energy are actually all over the place. When we connect to the earth, to the ground, that negative charge pulls all of these chaotic ions out of our field and out of our body. And that's why it's so good for anxiety and pain relief and sleep and all of these different things, by connecting to the earth. So that's what grounding actually does. It's a very real thing, and it makes a huge difference in our feelings of safety and security and connection. So that's a great one. I'm glad someone brought that up. At peace, feeling grounded. Okay, yeah, so those are big. Peace and grounded and freedom seem to be really big ones for everybody. Going forward, it's nice to ask yourself these questions. And you can also use hard experiences as a way to determine your needs. So if you're starting to feel frustrated, angry, stressed, resentful, or you notice yourself reaching for those distractions, you can kind of pull back and ask, what need do I feel is being violated here? And oftentimes, just because of the nature of society, we've been so taught to put our own needs on the back burner that we don't ask what need is being violated when we have harsher emotions. So just asking that can bring a level of awareness to it, and it can remind us what really does matter, what values we really have for ourselves. Brings a different side when you're vacationing. This year was harsh. Yeah, this year was hard on a lot of people. And I think there's a lot more people reaching out for this type of mindset improvement, because a lot of the, I'll say, distractions or coping mechanisms that we used to have are no longer available to us. And we really have to live in our day-to-day life, and we don't get those escapes anymore. Part of me thinks that's a great gift for the whole world, and part of me wishes I was on vacation too. So there we go. Mary Lou, I am going to find the link for the basic human needs, and I'll send it to you guys, because it's a really good resource to go back on. I believe there's 7 in the specific. It's John DeMartini, I believe, who does that one, and I'll send you guys the link for his website. He has a quick little quiz, and it helps you understand what your basic needs are as well. It's really helpful. Okay, so that's sort of what I needed on what I wanted to cover in regards to connecting, understanding ourselves and our needs. Because when we understand our needs and we can connect to those and fill those, we don't reach and grasp so much for things like food, our phone. Using relationships can be a sticky one, because we want the support of others. We want to be a community, but it's unhealthy if it's compulsive and if you're harming yourself by doing it. So if you're maybe say reaching out to a past romantic partner who you know was no good for you, but you're going to text them anyway because you're feeling lonely. That's a not so great one that we've probably all done at some point in our lives. But yeah, we can kind of review these types of questions and and bring ourselves back to the present and back to what we need to have happening in our life in order to feel secure and settled and safe. Does anybody have questions on that? Feel free to open your mic if you do, or type it in to the box. Or even just if you want to share an experience or a comment, or if it helped you kind of understand anything about yourself a little bit better.
I have something about a toxic thing that I could share. Like just the toxic relationship, a friendship that I would always go back to, and I would say, I'm not going to this time, I'm not. And it's just so unhealthy, right? And I actually did. And even when I had those moments that you're weak, when you have those needs, that's what I feel like what you just said, it applies. Like, you almost reach out again and make it okay because you're in that bad place yourself, and you go for the things that aren't good for you. But I powered through and I stayed mentally strong through it, and it's changed my life. Like that one little decision that I've known for years was a good thing to do. But you know, I think it might have even been because of On Your Collar, like things like this personal development that I've heard, like you said at the beginning, knowledge is power. And I was like, that's exactly what I do every time. And just knowing and recognizing that I was doing that every time helped me not do it. And my life has become better because of it. So, you know, thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And that is actually, Joanne brings up like a key point that I want to kind of impress on everybody from the get-go in what we're working on, is that awareness is often enough to shift. So it's not about feeling like we need to fix ourselves. We are, all of us, perfect and imperfect, all in the same go. You know, we all have really amazing strengths, and we all have our shadow parts and our weaknesses and the parts of ourselves that we do want to heal and we do want to work on. But that bravery of becoming aware of those challenges and seeing them in a new light, more often than not, just seeing them like that will shift it and allow it to change. So you don't necessarily have to always be doing anything. Sometimes you really can just be and see it and let it go, or make a new decision. I'm just going to check the comments here. Yeah, these are great, you guys. Unapologetically me. I love that. Okay. Does anybody else want to share anything really quickly?
I'll just share. It was interesting because as you were talking, I never really thought about it before, but one of my favorite things to do is to walk New River Beach. And I don't get to do it very often because the weather doesn't cooperate in the 6 or 7 or 8 weekends in the summer we have. But I didn't understand why. And I think when somebody said Pete, I couldn't come up with the words when you asked. And I couldn't even think of it till somebody said beach, and I said yes, and that's where I went. And then somebody said peace, and I said yes, I feel peaceful. And then Megan said grounded, and that's really the better word, because I have to walk it in bare feet in the water, right? It doesn't have the same effect unless I'm, in that freezing cold water. So it's an interesting, it's just an interesting experience. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's this is one of my favorite parts about group work, and when we share, is that we help other people gain all of these insights, because sometimes we have a word that we have found somehow, somewhere, that helps everyone else's experience make more sense. And that's fabulous. Okay, so the second half of the call today, I just want to touch on goals with everybody. I do not take a traditional approach to goals, because if the traditional approach to goals worked, we would all have achieved everything we ever wanted to achieve and we wouldn't be here. So traditional approach to goals kind of sucks, in my personal opinion. So let's try something new. I found we've all heard it, most of us have heard of SMART goals, I think. But I found something through a coach of mine called FAST goals. And that stands for frequent, ambitious, specific, and transparent. So I'm just going to type that in. Frequent, ambitious. Oh, what's the S? Specific, and transparent. Might sound a bit crazy, but every time I think about home, I grew up in the country and often was outside in bare feet. I constantly think back to those days and always about laying outside in the grass. It brings me so much peace when I think about those random moments. That makes all the sense in the world to me. And when I am in a space that I feel kind of chaotic or lost or whatever it is, and I'm meditating, I will mentally take myself to one of those outdoor spaces that makes me feel calm and grounded. And I will see myself there, and I will just imagine and meditate on the feeling that I get and try to bring that back into where I'm at. So that's exactly what you were saying. You see yourself in that space where you feel so good. And it really does change. It really changes your mindset. It gets different neural pathways firing when you focus on those feel good moments. And it helps actually it reduces the strength of the negative neural pathways that kind of hold us trapped, where we're in a spin. So with the FAST goals, getting back on track here, the frequent means frequently talked about, and ambitious means that it's going to challenge you in a way that excites you. So we want to hold ourselves to a high standard. We want to believe in ourselves and know that we can achieve things that maybe before we wouldn't have even set as a goal because we didn't think we could. With the ambitiousness, there's another aspect called good, better, and best, which I'm going to get into in a minute. And that just brings in some self-compassion to the goal setting and to the process of achieving that goal. Obviously, specific is really important, because if we don't know what we're reaching for, we're going to end up feeling like we're grasping. We're going to feel like we're just sort of treading water and not really making traction. So understanding exactly where you are right now and understanding where you want to be and then understanding the gap in between and how to get there. That's what specific means for me. Already enrolled in Isagenix, no need to present the good, better, best. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. So yeah, and I lost my page. So let me see if I can find it here. My computer froze. It's fine. So specific, and then transparent. Transparency means that we have people that are helping hold us accountable, because sometimes it's really easy to convince ourselves that we don't need help, that we don't need support, and that we don't need anybody else involved in our goals. But when you have a really supportive group like this, we can hold each other accountable. We can talk about our goal frequently to keep it top of mind, and we can create a level of transparency through, check-ins in your group chat, or if you create kind of a small group, if you have 3 or 4 people who all have their own goals, they don't have to be the same goal. And you all just do a check-in with each other every couple of days. Like, how are you doing? How can I support you? Here's what I need for support. And just continuing that conversation, allowing yourself to be part of a community as you're moving forward, because it does make a big difference in the way that we approach it. I had a goal at one point that I was going to be writing for 30 minutes a day on a book that I'm working on. I was slacking. I was getting maybe an hour a week in on writing. And I decided a friend of mine who was working on a master's thesis also wanted to be getting in a lot more writing than I did. But we just checked in with each other. At the beginning of every day, I would text him and I would say, how do you plan on getting your master's thesis worked into your day? And at the end of the day, he would text me and say, what did you write about today? And so we were really just holding each other accountable for it. And if we had, a day or two where we weren't on track, we would have a quick Zoom call and be like, okay, what's going on? What's pulling you off, and how can you get back on? It's not about judgment. It's not about, hostility or kicking people in the ass. It's just about support and having somebody that you trust to call you forward and to help you be that best version of yourself, from a loving space. I do have a PDF on the fast goals that I'm going to send out to you guys so that you'll have it in front of you. But one thing that maybe everyone could take a minute to do is just kind of identify what your goal is for the next 4 weeks. What do you want to achieve? And again, be specific. And so for me, when I started with Isagenix, it was not for weight loss, it was for overall health. So I wanted to be sleeping better, I wanted to have more energy, and I wanted to have less inflammation in my body. Open to receive the accountability. Yeah. Yes. Be open to receive. That is so good and so important. We have to let our guards down enough to receive that accountability and to allow someone in and trust them that when they call us out, they're really just bringing out that best part of ourselves that they know is there and we forgot about. Yeah, so for me, when I started Isagenix, it wasn't about weight loss. It was about lowering inflammation, sleeping better, and having more energy. Now, that is not specific because that's very vague. How are you going to look back 4 weeks and say, oh, I have more energy or I don't? Usually we re-normalize ourselves every week, and whatever becomes our normal that week, we think has been our normal forever. So we need a bit of a line. So I wrote down on a scale of 1 to 10 what my energy felt like, what my inflammation felt like, and how my sleep was. And I got really specific. So right now I'm sleeping 9-10 hours a night and I'm waking up 3 or 4 times and I don't feel rested when I get up. Things like that. Whereas I would then identify what my perfect looks like, and it's 7 to 8 hours of consistent, good quality sleep, and I wake up feeling rested in the morning. So really break it down, identify where you are and where you want to be, so that you know kind of where the gap is, you know how much of a gap is there. And that leads into the good, better, best goal setting. When we identify our ideal situation and we compare it to our current reality, it gives us an ability to identify what steps need to be taken. So with my sleeping goal, I really wanted to be getting that good quality, regular sleep. In order to do that, I knew I needed to turn off screens and turn my phone off an hour before bed, not drink any caffeine in the afternoon, take my Isocomfort because I found that just helped so much, still helps so much. Things like that were in my plan. So my ideal day consisted of no phone for an hour before bed, no caffeine after, I think it was like 1 o'clock is what I wrote down, and take my Isocomfort and magnesium right before I go to sleep. That's my perfect day. So that's my best, my absolute best that I could get out of that goal. A good enough day is when you kind of pick your next best step. So like if you had to miss something or if you miss something, what's still going to be, better? Like it's a good goal. And for me, it was no caffeine in the afternoon and taking the Isocomfort because I know my phone is kind of like my weakness at night. So I was like, well, if I get the other 2 done, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. And then our good goal is just, one of those 3 things. That was how it was for me. So we can look at it as a tiered level. Yeah, so again, I've got good, better, best in a PDF worksheet that I'm going to send out to you guys so you can actually break it down and write it in for yourselves. Because I'm really visual and I like to have stuff in front of me. I'm also very, I'm very writing oriented, so I have to write things down. So that can be really helpful. And it just creates a level of compassion with ourselves. Not every day is going to be our best day. Not every day is supposed to be our best day. But what can we do to keep a solid foundation and a solid base, even on, our hardest days or our worst days? And that's what the good enough is all about. Like where can I just accept like this was good enough for today because it was a really hard day, and allowing that to be in those moments. Self-judgment is what often creates a lot more problems than anything else. So if we didn't hit our every single thing we wanted to do on the list today and we beat ourselves up over it, we're a lot less likely to have the energy tomorrow to actually achieve those things. If we look at it and we identify what got in the way and we take a step towards either alleviating the stress or coping with it somehow, and then just drop the judgment, it is what it is, it's already happened, we're going to have a lot of energy left over the next day to start anew or to just continue with that little bit of progress. Progress is progress, even if it's small amounts. Does that make sense for everyone? Progress over perfection, absolutely. Perfection is absolutely paralyzing. Perfection stops us from achieving so many things. And as women, I think it's mostly women on this call, we have been deeply conditioned to believe that if we can't do it perfectly, we shouldn't do it at all. And I have a lot of explicit words for that whole concept. So just try it, just do what you can, and it's a lot better to try something and fail it than to just say you're not going to do it because you can't do it perfectly. And that includes trying to achieve goals in any part of our lives. So if everybody wants to take a second, and again, I'm going to get you to type into the chat box. It's quite a big group. Otherwise, I'd be opening mics up more. But and just maybe pop in a quick summary of what you would like to see for pick one goal for the next 4 weeks and what that would look like for you. If you achieved it exactly as you wanted to at the end of the 4 weeks, what would it look like for you? Drinking water every day, not eating at night, and sleeping 6 hours. Okay, more energy and accountability. Alexandria, what would, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your energy now? And on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you like your energy to be in 4 weeks? You don't have to type that in. It's just a thought. No negative self-talk. Okay, Lindsay, I'm gonna kind of challenge people, but I'm only doing it to try and help you specify the goals or create something more realistic. By saying no negative self-talk, that would be a really amazing spot to work on that good, better, and best. Because no matter how, most people, unless you're Buddha, there's going to be some level of negative self-talk in there. And creating an idea of no negative self-talk can sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case for you, but it can sometimes actually create more negative self-talk because you beat yourself up when you catch yourself doing it. So potentially more uplifting or motivating goal would be committing that 3 times a day you catch a negative self-talk and you reframe it into something positive. So you start to notice them a little bit more, say like, the first 3 times I catch myself thinking negatively today, I'm going to reframe it positively. And then if you can achieve that goal every day for a week, who knows? Maybe that's changed it so that instead of getting 3, all of a sudden you're doing 10 a day and you're reframing them and it's starting to really change your mindset that way. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, awesome. Okay, let me check some more here. Main goal for the next 4 weeks is waking up early, going to bed early, sleeping 7 hours. Yeah. Focus on increased productivity through the days. Okay. Alexandria added 2 for energy, would like to be at a 7 or 8. Awesome. That's really good. That's specific and it kind of gives you a goalpost. You could even take a moment and journal what more energy would look like for you. Does it mean less of an afternoon slump? Does it mean you feel more rested when you wake up? Like whatever that is for you specifically. If you have kids, more energy to play with your kids, whatever. Starting some exercise that you're able to. Been too sedentary. Okay. So Mary, a really good thing to do for that, exercise is often a really difficult one. List 3 or 4 things that you love doing that are physically active, things that are really fun, or people that you really enjoy spending time with that you can integrate into that. So try to make the goal fun as well as achievable, because it'll motivate you kind of intrinsically to continue with it. Not whisper, I suck to myself every time something goes wrong. Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, and not taking blame for everything. Absolutely. There's a huge difference between taking the blame for something and taking responsibility for your part or your emotions in it. And being able to recognize the difference there is huge. So, Joanne, with that, it might help for you to create a mantra. So every time that you hear yourself say, I suck, have something written on paper or in your pocket that you can pull out and read to yourself that reframes that sentence. It doesn't have to be, I'm perfect, because we still want it to be believable, but it could be, I didn't do that the way I wanted. That's okay. I'm going to do better next time. It could be something as simple as that if something more out there is just too much for you to truly believe. It's okay to take little shifts, right? We don't always have to do a 180. Drinking 3 liters of water, 3 snacks, walking for 30 minutes. Awesome. Those are really good. Getting my button gear at 5 a.m. to do my morning workout rather than getting lost in the scroll. Yes. Scrolling in the morning is the worst. Changing mindset towards food and water intake. Okay, so Lisa, ask yourself, kind of identify what is your mindset towards food right now and what would you like it to be? And then kind of pick maybe one area that you're just going to work on a little bit every day. A lot of this stuff we're going to cover more in depth in later calls as well. Realizing that my toddler is learning to be a human and not getting frustrated with her. Taking the time to breathe before reacting to her misbehaving. I want to be better at the end of the day with our interactions. Okay, that's a really good one. It can be really difficult to as parents to kind of take that step back and remember, like, they're human as much as we are. They're going to get frustrated as much as we are. Something that I did quite a bit with my stepson that I found really helpful was exactly what you said, Stephanie, taking that breath and remembering, taking the step back and giving yourself some space. But the question, or I guess the phrase that I would often use, my stepson has autism, so he had quite a lot of behavioral issues when I lived with him and his father. And one thing that really helped me is I would take a step back and I would ask myself, how much harder is this on him than it is on me? Because trying to cope as a toddler or as somebody who's, not neurotypical in this world is really challenging. There's a lot of stimulus. There's a lot of input. There's a lot of stress. They're trying to figure out all of these things around them, and just kind of asking, how much harder is it for them to be learning about this world than it is for me to be living in it right now? And that often gave me the space to be a lot more compassionate towards him. And you can also ask yourself, if you're feeling frustrated or resentful, what you're not giving yourself. Because oftentimes we get frustrated externally because we're not giving ourselves something internally. So if you aren't taking, moments for yourself throughout the day, if you're not focusing on increasing your own feelings of security or fulfillment, that can often bleed over into our relationships with others, especially with the kiddos. All right. 9 kids. That's a lot of kids. That, no wonder you have an energy level of 2, Alexandria. Wow. Yeah. Okay. I can see why you want more energy. That's a lot of output. Good for you for taking the time to do this for yourself. That's impressive. Add workouts in the morning for Megan. Form 4 or 5 a week. Okay. That can be a good, better, kind of good, better, best as well. Yeah. Getting water in. Missing when I'm feeling disconnected. So, okay. Yeah. Find out that's a good one, Jennifer, to find out what you're missing when you're feeling disconnected. It can be a little bit tough. And I just invite anyone, I'll send my email out to everyone. If you are really struggling with that, feel free to shoot me an email. If we need to get too deep into it, we can always talk about some deeper sessions, but I can usually help pinpoint things pretty quickly for people. Okay, there's like 20 messages, so I'm not gonna continue going through every single one of them because we're running out of time. I see someone here said, have some damn grace with yourself. All right, Allison, I'm going to read that one because I think that was in response to you. In the next 4 weeks, I'm determined to find a more productive way to maximize my days while working so that I don't feel like I'm picking my career over my life. That's a really good thing to identify. Trying to get a consistent schedule despite shift work, blocking time, meal prep, positive energy. Okay, that's actually really good. Those are really specific. It can be super tough though. So the good, better, best might really help you, Allison, in identifying, you know, how can you just create the strongest base for yourself so that you have a solid foundation to work from. Okay, so I know I didn't get to everybody. So if anyone has a specific question, can you just either maybe just raise your hand, hit the raise hand, or type me into the chat box right now and I can unmute you if there's something kind of specific that you might be struggling with. Oh, you're welcome, Holly. Okay. All right. So I'll assume that everyone's good for now. I know sometimes it's a lot of information to take in. I am recording it. I will post this tomorrow so that you can watch it on, it'll be on my YouTube channel. I'll send you guys all the link. So next week, we're going to cover maintaining motivation, recommitment to our goals, and mindfulness practices. So that will be about an hour. I try to keep calls to an hour because I know everybody has, you know, a busy life and a busy schedule. We may go over sometimes, but my commitment to you guys is to have the material covered within the hour so that if you have to hop off, you won't be missing anything. And then, like I said, if anyone's feeling really stuck, I do one-to-one sessions. I typically recommend you go a couple of weeks with the group stuff because often your questions will get answered naturally through the conversations. But then if you are still struggling with something and you don't want to talk about it on the group, feel free to reach out to me and we can have a chat about that. No worries about being late. Good cry can be all you need. Yeah, cries are good. I like to cry. All right. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. Again, I'll stay on for a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to hop on, unmute yourself, or otherwise have a wonderful evening. You're welcome, Megan. Thanks, guys. No worries about the typo. Computers don't let me, don't let anyone type my name. Oh, there, Mary. Mary, I unmuted you. I wasn't sure if the thumbs up was a hand raise or. Oh, I thought I unmuted. You may have to unmute. Oh, there you go. Hi, Mary.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Have a great night.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys. You're so welcome. Hope everything made sense for everyone. You're welcome, Rhonda and Anna and Amy. Oh, Anna, 1 second there. I'll unmute you.
I'm trying to disconnect, but it's just not doing anything.
Oh, it's not letting you. 1 second here. I can see if it'll let me. Here, I think I can remove you so it'll let you out. Oh, there we go. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, I hope you guys all have a fabulous night. If anyone, I know there's 3 of you left on the calls. I can't tell if it's because you're not able to jump off or if you have a question, but if you do, you can always shoot me a message. And I will be chatting with you guys next week.